You're at your desk. It's 2 p.m. on a Tuesday. Your screen has 17 open tabs. Your third coffee is getting cold. And then your thumb stops. Someone posted a photo. A wooden porch, a rice field stretching to the horizon. 1 cup of coffee, 0 notifications. You stare at it longer than you should, and you feel something you haven't felt in a while. Not jealousy. Deeper than that. Something that whispers, I want that. If that's you, good. Because that feeling isn't weakness. It isn't midlife crisis. It isn't laziness dressed up as a dream. There is actual science behind why your brain craves silence. Behind why the idea of a slow morning, a garden, a life without a commute feels less like a fantasy and more like a need. Researchers found that city dwellers have a 21% higher risk of anxiety disorders and a 39% higher risk of mood disorders than people in rural areas. That's not a preference. That's your nervous system talking. But here's the thing nobody tells you. There are 2 very different reasons people want to retire to the village, and only one of them will actually give you what you're looking for. Here's what's actually happening. Your brain was built for a world that no longer exists. For most of human history, anthropologists estimate the average person knew roughly 150 people, give or take a village dispute. They heard maybe a dozen sounds a day. They made a handful of decisions before sunset. Now, in a single commute, your brain processes thousands of faces, dozens of noises fighting for attention, hundreds of micro-decisions. Psychologists call this directed attention fatigue. Your brain has a limited capacity to focus. Every crowded street burns through it. Every notification uses a tiny slice. By 2 p.m. you're running on fumes. That craving for silence? That's not a personality trait. That's your brain screaming, I need to stop processing. And this is where it gets interesting. Rachel and Stephen Kaplan, psychologists at the University of Michigan, spent decades studying what happens to the brain in natural environments. They're finding nature is one of the few environments that restores directed attention without asking anything in return. When you're in the city, your brain is always working. When you're in nature, something different happens. A tree doesn't demand a response. A rice field doesn't send notifications. The sound of rain doesn't need to be replied to. Your brain switches from directed attention, effortful, draining, to something they call soft fascination. You're paying attention, but it costs nothing. The brain exhales. There's something else happening, slower and more serious. Every time you hear a horn honk, your body releases a small spike of cortisol. Every aggressive notification, every meeting that could have been an email. Your nervous system doesn't know the difference between a lion chasing you and a Slack notification. It panics equally. Cortisol spike, cortisol spike, cortisol spike. One spike? No problem. Your body handles it. But hundreds of small spikes every day for years? Research links chronic urban noise alone to higher rates of anxiety, depression, and cardiovascular disease. The city isn't dramatic about it. It doesn't attack you. It just drains you. Slowly. Quietly. Until one Tuesday afternoon, your thumb stops on a photo of a rice field, and something inside you says, I can't do this anymore. There are 2 kinds of wanting to retire to the village. The first kind, you know what you're moving toward. You want to grow something, wake up without an alarm, hear birds instead of traffic, build a life that's slow by design. Psychologists call this approach motivation. You're moving towards something that genuinely fits you. The second kind, you just want to disappear. You don't care about the garden. You don't care about the rice field. You just want everything to stop. The notifications, the pressure, the version of yourself that can't seem to keep up. You're not moving toward the village. You're running away from the city. Same wooden porch, same rice field, completely different reasons. And only one will actually get you there. That moves with you. And the data backs this up. A 2019 study from the University of Exeter found something striking. People who moved closer to nature consistently reported higher well-being, better mood, lower anxiety, more life satisfaction. But the same researchers found something else. People who moved specifically to escape, without changing anything about how they lived or related to themselves, tended to report a return of stress symptoms within months. Psychologists who study relocation motivation call this the escape trap. The village worked for one group. Because the village restores what the city depletes, but it cannot replace the inner work that no postcode has ever been able to do. Trust me, the Wi-Fi in the village knows. So here's a question worth sitting with. When you imagine your life in the village, what do you see yourself doing? If you see yourself building something, and gardening, cooking, learning, connecting, that's your brain telling you what it genuinely needs. That's worth listening to. But if what you imagine is mostly Absence. No boss, no commute, no group chat that says, quick call at 4:57 p.m. No version of yourself that has to perform. Then the village isn't the destination. It's the symptom. And the real question isn't, where should I move? The real question is, what am I so tired of carrying? Here's something worth hearing. You don't have to buy land anywhere. What the research actually shows, the minimum effective dose, is 20 minutes in nature 3 times a week. Not a retreat, not even a hike, a bench, a tree. 20 minutes of your brain not being asked to perform. Pair that with chosen silence once a day. Not silence with a phone face down. Actual silence. The kind where nothing is asking you to respond. And once a week, just once, ask yourself honestly, am I building towards something? Or just trying to outrun something? That question, answered honestly, is worth more than any zip code. I don't know where you are right now. Maybe you're genuinely ready to build something slower. Maybe you're exhausted in ways that a zip code won't fix. Maybe you're somewhere in between. But one thing I know, that photo you stopped on, that craving for silence, that whisper that said, I want that, that's information. Your nervous system is not broken. It is telling you something true. The question is just, are you listening to what it's actually saying? Or only hearing what you want it to say? Oh, one more thing. If this video made you feel seen, share it with that colleague who keeps saying one day I'm just going to quit and move to the countryside. They'll either appreciate it or they'll finally quit and move. Either way, you did something good. Subscribe if this resonated behind the behavior. Every behavior has a reason. Now close this app and go touch some grass. Literally.